let's go through this. All right, the first thing I want to say is thank you to everyone that's here, that is participating today, as well as has joined us in today. I hope that at the end of this, you'll come out wiser and feel like when or if you are going to make this jump, that you have a better understanding so that you feel more comfortable when the time comes, okay? My name is Joanna Zupas. I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams here in Winter Park, Orlando, Florida. And I'm here to kind of go through the whole idea of what should you be looking for when you're buying an investment property, and what kind of returns, and just kind of the big picture where the market is at right now, especially after this whole coronavirus and the situation that we're under. Next, I'll be followed by Lisa Rodriguez. She is the person that's going to be talking about the self-directed IRA, which is a great way for you to fund investment properties that maybe a lot of people just don't talk about. A lot of, really seasoned investors use this vehicle as a way to buy their investment property. And so I wanted to bring that to the attention to the public that maybe has never heard of it in the first place. I also have Kendra here from Zenodra Homes, and she is a new construction sales consultant. So she works with a builder that does new construction near the Disney area. And she's going to be talking to you about her inventory and what she can provide. Their inventory does short-term rentals, long-term rentals, so buy and holds, as well as you can live in the property if you choose. And then last but not least, we have David Droddy here from Keller Williams Property Management. And he's, it's great. Maybe if you buy one property, maybe you can do it yourself if you want to take on that liability. But I know some of you guys are out of state, so that's just not even an option. And also, once you get to your second, third, fourth, fifth property, it becomes a bit of very time consuming and maybe a headache for you. And that's when David would jump in to help you with all of that. Okay.
Okay.
Next. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is kind of just finding the perfect investment property and trying to make this whole process easy. And it might feel like, you're climbing a mountain up this whole process, but that's what I'm here for, to try to make this as easy as possible and to try to give you as much feedback and insight into next steps and where everything needs to be. Next slide, please. Okay, so why invest in real estate? I have a lot of good little pointers here. The first one is that it's a high tangible asset value. So what does that mean? Well, it means that a lot of the times when you think about investing, you think about stocks, you think about bonds, treasuries, CDs, and you might not really think about how valuable the real estate investment is, but actually, you can touch this this investment, right? You don't need someone else to buy that home for you. You go out there, you look for it, you know what is important to you when you're buying this investment for yourself. And that is all something that you can take care of. Whereas if you do a stock or if you do bonds, you need someone to buy them for you. You have a financial advisor, all this kind of stuff that's helping you with that portfolio. The next thing is that it's an attractive and stable income return. So what I mean by that is when you have a stock or bond, maybe, 1 month it's 1,000, another month it's 500, and another month it's 2. You don't really know where your dividends, how high or low they're going to be. Whereas when you own real estate, you know that every month you're going to be getting this amount, and it's stable and it's a passive income that's just coming to you. And you just got to pick up that cash at the end of the month or at the beginning of the month. It's also just a great way to diversify your portfolio, because a lot of the times when the economy is down, actually real estate holds its value pretty well as sometimes it even increases in value. So it's one of those things that if the stock market's getting a little bit rambunctious, this is something that stabilizes that ebb and flow. And then lastly, one of the great benefits of investing in real estate is the fact that it has inflation hedging, right? So if the economy is very strong, what you get is an increase in rents, right? And also that increase of the home value. These are two really great ways to hedge against maybe some inflation that's happening in the economy. And therefore, you're keeping that value of your asset. The drawback that I did want to mention is the lack of liquidity. And what I mean by that is, when you sell a stock, you click on a button and you sell and you get whatever profit or not that you made from it. Whereas with real estate, it takes 30 days, 60 days. If you don't have a cash buyer that's buying the property, you have that in between time. Or even if it's cash buyer, it still might take a week or two for you to get your money. So just keep that in mind, that it's not just like a quick turn. It takes a little time for you to get that money back when you do decide to sell. Okay, next slide. I want to go through the real estate markets and just to understand which market we're currently in still, just because of how the coronavirus situation is holding up, and maybe a lot of people want to understand where we currently are. So for me to explain that to you, there's a seller's market, a buyer's market, and a balanced market. In a seller's market, what you typically see is very low inventory. So you see less than 5 months of inventory. And what that means is that there's just not a lot of inventory in the market. So the buyers just don't have a lot of choices, essentially. They're not, and if whatever they do pick, if they like it, go for it, jump on it, because it's not gonna last long. And a lot of the time in the seller markets, you have this multiple offer situation where a lot of people are putting an offer on one home, and it kind of is who makes the best offer gets the home. In a buyer's market, you have a lot of inventory. You have 7 months or more of inventory, meaning that there's a lot of choices for the buyer. The buyer can take a little bit more time. They have more room to negotiate. You're not going to be in this bidding war situation, right? And then you have the balanced market, where it's that happy medium between the seller's market and the buyer's market. The only problem with the balanced market is that it doesn't typically last long. Usually you shift from one side to the other rather quickly. So next slide. So if we look at, can you click it one more time? There should be an arrow. Yeah. So if you look at this 2-year recap, all I want you to look at is the months of inventory. And so up until April 2020, you still have about 3.5 months of inventory, meaning that you still have a very low amount of inventory in the market, which still says that we're still in a seller's market. And so if we're gonna go buy something, make sure that if you like something, go for it. And we've been in a seller market now for the last 3 years. Now with the coronavirus, you did see a very sometimes dramatic dip in home prices, because motivated sellers were motivated. They wanted to move, and they were getting scared that this whole thing was just gonna create debacle and that they weren't gonna be able to sell their homes. But now that we're our heads are kind of coming out of the water, a lot of buyers are jumping back into the market and looking for their home. A lot of investors are jumping back into the market. And so just be mindful of that when you're buying your investment property. Okay, next. All right, so how do I calculate my return on investment if I have a rental income that I'm paying with cash? Can we just go back to, yeah, and there, yeah, let me just, so let's say that you have $100,000, you find a home for $100,000. I'm just keeping it simple here. Finding a home for $100,000 isn't, unless it's a condo, it's really not, it's impossible, but let's just keep the numbers simple. $100,000 in cash, and then you have $10,000 that you're going to use to remodel that home. That's a total investment of $110,000, right? But what you also have to think about is your expenses. You have to think about, are you going to pay for some of the utilities? Property taxes, for sure you're going to pay for. HOA, for sure you're going to pay for. And if you're going to get homeowners insurance or any kind of liability insurance that you want to tack on as well. So that's, you have to think about all of that. And then you have to think about your rental income. So let's say that on this particular fake property, you get $1,000 a month and you earn about $12,000 a year. Okay, so these are kind of the three buckets that you have to think about. How much did I spend on the home? What are my expenses? Once this home is rented, that, you know, it pretty much I'm the one that has to pay for it, or you try to put it into the price of the home. And then what kind of rental income am I getting? So if we, thank you. So that gets us about a $9,600 return on the home, right? $12,000 minus the $2,400 expense. So at the end of the year, you're making $9,600. So what does that mean on this return on investment? How do I calculate that, right? Well, you have your annual return, which is $9,600. You divide it by the total amount of cash that you invested in this property, which is $110,000. So your ROI is about 8.7%. Now, if you think about how much money you're making in a savings account or in a CD, maybe you're making 1 to 2%, whereas in this investment property, you're making about 8 to 9%. That's a really nice return on your investment, right? Can every investment property have an 8%? You know, maybe that might be a hard number sometimes, just because of if prices aren't where it, you know, where it needs to be, or if it's not as low as you want it to be, maybe you won't get to that 8%, but still 5, 6, 7, better than 1. And also what this isn't factoring in is the appreciation of the home, right? Like at this point, you're just kind of seeing it today, right now, what am I getting? But if you're holding this for 15, 20 years, that's going to be really nice appreciation. Typically, real estate appreciates about 3 to 5% a year. So the longer you hold it, the better, the more equity you're going to have in the home. And then when you do decide to sell it, that's a nice chunk of cash that you're going to have in your hands. Okay, next. So let's say you don't have $110,000 or whatever it is in cash that you want to buy. Another obviously choice that you can make is to buy it with a more, like use a lender and buy your home and take out a mortgage. Okay, so let's say that it's the same home, $100,000. Typically with an investment property, when you buy with an investor, it's around 15 to 20% down payment, and some investor or some lenders are different. You just gotta, you know, see how your investor works. Okay, so let's say you put that 20% down, that's $20,000, but now you also have to pay for your closing costs because you're paying for that lender to originate the loan, all the costs that are associated with a lender. But you're also going to still remodel the home, and that's a $10,000 cost. So upfront, you have about a $32,500 investment that cash that you're putting into the home. Now, the expenses are probably going to be very similar when it comes to utilities, taxes, HOA, but you have to also add on the fact that you are going to be paying a monthly mortgage payment until you pay off this loan. And it's up to you how much more you want to pay off. If you want to pay this off sooner, obviously that monthly mortgage payment is going to be higher. So in the end, next, if your rental property is still coming out with $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, your annual return is actually going to be less because you have to take into the fact that you're going to be paying for that mortgage. So that's obviously going to reduce the price of the annual return. But when you look at your ROI, it's actually higher. So if you look at your ROI, if you take the annual return, that $5,000, and divide it by the $32,500, because you're putting less of your own cash into the deal, your ROI is almost 15%. So it's one of those trade-offs, right? If you have cash, a cash buy, you have more cash on hand at the end of the year, but your ROI is a little bit lower. If you use financing, you have less cash every year, but your ROI is higher. So, you know, it's just one of those things that you can kind of play with and see what works best for you. Okay, I see that we have a question in the chat. Okay, a joke, never panic because of fake news. Yes, exactly. But I'm going to be opening it up now to any questions that anyone might have, and anything that you might want me to explain a little bit better if I didn't explain it enough, or any questions out there? If you can unmute yourself.
Yep, this is Janya. Quick question. What about if you have a house situation, big ticket items that you can't really plan for? You know, 2 years down the line, you need a new roof. How do you put that into your expense calculations?
So I know a lot of investors have these default settings where they might take a percentage that they allocate only towards kind of that maintenance aspect of it. And David, you can jump in as well.
Yeah, I was about to jump in when you were done. What I find on the repairs, a good rule of thumb, there's different percentages you could try to use. But I find, as far as trying to keep it simple, a good rule of thumb is to try to put aside about one payment a month for the year. So let's say if you had a property that's renting for $1,500, I would suggest if you're put away about $1,500 a year aside, just divide that out per month or however you want to do it. What you're going to find is you're going to be pretty close on these things. You're going to have a few years where it's like, hey, it was only $500. And what happened is it'll build up in the account a little bit. You're like, you know, I'm probably putting away too much. And then all of a sudden, you know, you'll have a $3,000 air conditioner go, or like you said, a roof situation that will go. But I find if you put about 1/12 away per month, I suggest you put it aside. Some property managers like myself can even put that in a separate account in the escrow account for you. Some of my investors and owner occupants like to set money aside each month so they have money sitting in the account. So as they build up money, they might have $1,000 in there, and then they have a $500 repair. It doesn't surprise them that they have a $500 expense in this month. They're able to pay it out of that reserve that they made and keep things a little more steady for them. So that would be my suggestion as far as how to handle those repair costs.
Yeah, and I think also a lot of the times, like if you buy a home and, you know, there's a 12-year-old AC unit, a lot of the times just buy that home warranty, like a $500 home warranty, and just use it until it clocks out. And hopefully the home warranty will be there to repair it or replace it or something, so that in the end, it might not be thousands of dollars. Maybe it'll be like $500 or $1,000 or something. So that's also a strategy that you can use to kind of hedge. And with roofs, sometimes you can even get a claims adjuster to come look at your roof and put in a new roof for you, and you don't even have to pay for it. They'll just work with the insurance company and get that roof done for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else have a question?
Which do you think would be more appropriate if you were going to spend $500,000 on buying a home, putting $500,000 down on buying it outright, or buying 5 homes worth $500,000 each, putting $100,000 down on each?
I mean, you'd have to see how much rent you're getting, because if that $500,000 home only gets you $3,000 worth of rent, maybe it won't be that good of an idea. You know, and if you get 5 homes at $100,000, but you're, you know, making a good deal more, maybe that makes sense. I mean, like, you just have to look at the numbers and what the rents are going for in that neighborhood.
Okay. There's a question between buying outright a $500,000 home or mortgaging 5 $500,000 homes.
I'll comment on that.
Okay, go for it.
Basically, I think it's going to come down a little bit to the type of investor that you are. If you are a very risk-averse investor, you know, maybe paying cash for the properties is the best thing, because there's no risk in the sense that it mitigates the possibility something crazy happening and those properties ending up getting foreclosed on. So if you're an investor that's goal is to try to maximize return, and you can handle a little more risk, then you might be able to get greater returns by using some of the financing and having some risk involved with the properties, but you're going to increase your returns on the property. So to a certain extent, you're looking at the returns Joanne has. I think right now, compared to the banks and everything else, you have a secured asset. You're going to make a good return under either circumstances, but if it comes with your risk averse, more risk averse, and like through New View and stuff like that, they have some great programs that also may coincide with your retirement that could be advantageous to you as well. So it's a little bit of a specific investor answer for that.
Yeah, and Bobby put in the chats, your age has a lot to do with it. I'm not investing $2.5 million in home at 60 years old. So I understand what David was talking about, kind of your risk palette. Probably if you're younger and you might have a little bit more of a riskier palette.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, anyone else? All right, well, if anyone has any questions for me, this is my information, take a screenshot, and hopefully we will all circle back soon, and I'd be happy to help you. If you're looking to buy, sell, invest, all the options are out there, and I'd love to be your advisor through all of that. All right, so next we are gonna have New View. Lisa.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Joanna. I appreciate it. Lisa Rodriguez with New View Trust Company. I'm the Director of Retail National Accounts at New View. And today I would like to talk about building tax-free wealth with your self-directed IRA through real estate. I do want to first confess, though, that I am not a lawyer. I am not a CPA or tax professional. We are not a fiduciary, so we do not give investment advice or financial advice. But we are going to provide you with education and tools to make good decisions and tell you where to find that information as well. So where does New View fit in? We are a custodian, very similar to Schwab and Fidelity. The main difference is that we do not primarily invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, our clients, that is. We have clients that want to self-direct, so they want choice, whether that's real estate, cryptocurrency, being a note holder, so being the bank for someone else. That's what we want to provide choices for our clients. We've been in business for 17 years, and we have almost 50 employees here in our Longwood, Florida office. We custody $1.4 billion in client assets. And our three uniques, or the three things that we want to focus on with our clients, are being simple, available, and responsive. So we have, every Monday, we have a staff meeting. We talk about availability, which I think is very important. Everybody knows they don't want to call a company and get a voicemail or, get stuck in a queue. We do pride ourselves on that. And our goal is to be available 98% of the time. And the last couple of weeks, we've been at 99. So we have come to work. During this COVID crisis, we are staying socially distant at work, but we are being available for our clients, especially with real estate. We have closings going on. We have to make sure we're there to fund. So what we hope to accomplish today is just to learn more about tax advantages with investing in real estate through IRAs or 401k accounts, and how to take action if you want to do that. So my first point of reference here is that most Americans don't save. 15% of Americans age 60 or older do not have a retirement savings. Does that surprise you? Are you in that category? I wanted to point this out. I know right now may not be the best time to roll out this message, but it is the right message, potentially at the wrong time with all the unemployment. But what message I want to talk about today is the fact that Saving is as equally important as investing. So we should do both as much as possible. And, you know, just an example, if we have somebody that has $5,000 and they want to invest, and we have somebody that has $50,000 and they want to invest, and both are getting a 10% return, you know, you're getting $500 if you're the $5,000 investor, or you're getting $5,000 if you're the $50,000 investor. So same investment, different saver. Just wanted to point that out to you. I know when I was in college, my finance professor talked a lot about making sure you maximize your 401ks or your IRAs. And I listened to that, although I did take some time off when I opened my own business for a couple of years. But I'm back on track, and I hope that all of you are too. And you know, life happens and we get that. Just always be in the back of your mind that saving is super important. So I wanted to talk about what taxes do to our investments. If we, for example, decided that we were going to invest $1, and for example and illustration purposes, we doubled that dollar every year for 20 years, it shows that we would have a return of $72,570. Of course, that's with taxes, right? So we're just going to use 25%. That's kind of an average. So $2 becomes $1.70. Like if you have $1, then it goes to $2. Take 25% of the profit. That's where you get the $1.75 from. Keep doubling and doubling as the years progress. And if you did that, let's say in real estate or what have you, that's essentially the tax repercussion. Now, if you did it inside of an IRA and that dollar doubled year after year after year, how many people could guess, or does anybody want to take a stab at it in the audience, what they think the investment would be if it doubled from $1 20 times in a tax advantage vehicle? Anybody want to take a stab at it? Okay, well, I'll give you the answer. It's over $1 million. So same investor and same investment return, different vehicle. One is outside of your tax advantage account, so an IRA, for example, and then one is inside of that. So you can see, even if I have it in a traditional IRA and it's time to retire, and maybe I'm in a 30% tax bracket, that's still going to get me $700,000 versus $72,000. So that is the advantage of making your investments inside of an IRA. The other thing is if you were doing that inside of a Roth IRA, which is an after-tax investment, then you would actually get to keep your entire $1,048,000. So just showing you the advantages. I don't know about you, but I want to be the guy on the right with the $1 million, right? Now, here are some of the accounts that we have here at NewView. We offer the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA, and that you can have outside of having, you know, 401ks at your jobs or anything. If you're under the age of 50, it's a $6,000 contribution per year. If you're over the age of 50, then it's $7,000. The SEP and the Simple are for self-employed individuals. The SEP has a higher contribution limit for a self-employed individual. Simple is usually for small business owners between 10 and 100 employees. And then you also can have one of those accounts and an HSA and ESA. So the HSA is our health savings account. So if you have a high deductible high deductible health plan, then you can contribute to the health savings account. And per individual, it's $3,500. Per family, it's $7,000. With the HSA, you don't have to have earned income. You know, it doesn't have to be taxable earned income to contribute. So that is a benefit as well. And the HSA is the only plan that's tax deductible on the way in and tax-free on the way out if you use it for qualified medical expenses. And there's not a time limit on that either. So you can kind of save your receipts for 5 years and then go back and collect that, which is really cool. So that's a really awesome plan that we have. And then the educational savings accounts, that is for like if you have a child, grandchild, niece, nephew, stranger, and you want to help provide money for the educational savings account, you can do that. I have a couple kids if you want to, you know, donate for that. But the educational savings account also can be self-directed. So everything on this list can be self-directed, which is an advantage, meaning that you can choose your asset alternatively outside of the stock market, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And then lastly, I want to point out the solo 401k. If you are a self-employed individual with no common law employees, this is absolutely a plan that you should definitely call me tomorrow about, and we should have a conversation. You have the freedom to make a lot of choices. You can invest with that plan inside the stock market with us alternatively, and there's a lot of advantages to it. So definitely keep that in mind if you are self-employed with no common law employees. I want to talk to Joanna's points. She had showed us the graphs, the return of investment, 8 to 15%, which are, fantastic. Think about how that can be done in a qualified, in a retirement plan, right? So if you wanted to buy a fix and flip, for example, you could do that. If you wanted to buy an investment property or rental property, you could do that. If you wanted to buy raw land and lease it to a cell phone tower company or a billboard company, you could do that as well in your IRA. So there's a lot of advantages and a lot of choices there. Let me tell you a little bit about the limitations. So the IRS doesn't like to tell you what you could do, right? They like to tell you what you can't do. So I liken this to my kids when we go visit, my family's house, and they're only 6 and 8. So if they are trying to open the refrigerator, I'm like, don't do that. They're trying to climb something, don't climb that. So this is how I envision the IRS, right? They tell us what we can't do. And there's only a few things that we can't do. The first thing is you can't purchase life insurance. So life insurance is for your beneficiaries after you decease. And this is a retirement account. So you cannot purchase life insurance. And the other thing is purchasing collectibles. So artwork, antiques, coin collections, and things. When you have an IRA, you have to give a fair market valuation every year to the IRS. And it would be very difficult to get those valuations done for collectibles. Because if I'm somebody that has a really cool collectible, on the way in, I might say, yeah, it's worth $1 million and I have this big, IRA account, but on the way out, when I have to pay taxes, I might say, well, it's only worth 50,000. And there's really no way to judge that. And everybody has a different opinion when it comes to collectibles and artwork. So they decided they don't want to deal with it. So they're not going to allow us to do that in an IRA. And then there's a handful of people that you cannot conduct business with in your IRA. And that is yourself and your spouse, your lineal ascendants, which are your parents and your grandparents, your lineal descendants, so children, grandchildren, spouses of any of those individuals, or businesses owned by any of those individuals. So if you, for example, bought an investment property and it was a fix and flip, you could not do any sweat equity yourself. You couldn't do the painting. You'd have to hire somebody to do the painting for you. You couldn't buy a property and then let your child rent there. The IRS just doesn't want you to have any sweetheart dealings with your family members. They don't want to give any good deals or free deals. This is for your retirement. It is a tax advantage account. They just want to make sure that every deal that you have with people is on the up and up, an interest rate that seems reasonable, and a market value on properties when you're buying and selling that's reasonable as well. So those are the only limitations that we have on it. There are such a plethora of options for you. Like I mentioned, you can be a note holder, you can buy tax liens, you can buy real estate, and the list goes on and on. So maybe you're sitting here thinking like, why haven't I ever heard of this before? Or why does this seem like the best kept secret out there? I think because it is, right? It's been around since the 70s, and people have had the option to self-direct, but most people just don't know about it. And why is that? I think, it requires a custodian like NewView. So we give you the vehicle to be able to, in order to do this. It's not for everybody. So you have to kind of the self and self-direction gives you the control. So if you want to take control and you want to make the investments, not everybody's like that. Some people just want to pay an advisor to do everything for them, and they're happy to do that. And then, obviously the financial advisors, a lot of their education and designations don't have anything to do with alternative assets. Everything they know about is in the stock market, bonds, mutual funds. And of course, they wouldn't make commissions on it. So that might be why some of the best kept secrets and self-directed accounts exist. But let me tell you how we can help you here at NewView. We provide the administration, we custody the assets. So you tell us, we hold the money for you, and then you tell us where to invest it. We execute contracts. We deliver the IRS filing, so we'll tell you when there's, tax filings due, and we send distributions as requested. We also pay expenses. So in that example that Joanna talked about, if the air conditioning were to go down, you would also pay those expenses out of your IRA. You cannot mix your personal money with your IRA money. So any expenses need to be paid outside of inside of your IRA, and any money you receive, like if it's rents, monthly rents, goes back into your IRA until you're ready to take a distribution at retirement. So, any questions?
International investments into startup businesses would be on or off the table?
You can do that, yes. Tomorrow we have a webinar, and the webinar is about checkbook control. If you go to our website, newviewira.com, and you go under the events, there's a checkbook control webinar, and that is very good for offshore investments because you do have to create an LLC in order to do that. But that's absolutely something we can do. And then the private stock, yes, as long as it's a private company, not publicly traded, you can also invest in it. You just can't be a decision maker or any of the parties that I mentioned. You can't work for the company, those kind of things.
I think I definitely wanted to kind of point out is also, like, let's say that you worked for a company and then you no longer work for that company. So you have a 401k or something sitting out there, and you want to take that money and roll it into the self-directed IRA. I'm assuming you can do that and then use it to purchase.
Absolutely. So right now, share with your family and friends. This is a time where there are a lot of unemployed people that now have a 401k that's sitting there, and they may think that it's stuck there, or they might not want to put it in the stock market just because it's so volatile right now. But they can bring that account, roll their 401k funds into an IRA and start self-directing immediately.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I think that's a huge advantage to realize that you probably have like a chunk of money just sitting that you could be using to invest that money.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, obviously Lisa's number is right there, so feel free to contact her, or if you want to contact me and I can give you her number, happy to do that as well.
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa. Well, we're going to have Kendra now from Zenodra Homes talking about her vacation homes and short-term rentals that she has available, and the gamut of new construction that she has.
Yes, so I'm super excited to be talking to you guys, so thanks for having me. So Zenodra Homes, so who are they? Who are we? We are a developer in the Central Florida area. Our homes are primarily used as vacation investment properties. Joanna, you asked me yesterday about the clients, like where are they from? I feel like that's important to mention right off the bat. We have clients from all over that use the home in different ways. We do not have any restrictions. So a majority of our clients do some form of short-term rental. Some of them are local, so they do Airbnb themselves. Others are not. We have a lot of foreign national owners that hire a property management company that they choose. Typically, their realtor and the client would pick out their own property management company. We don't have a mandatory one. And they decide what company is going to best service their needs. If they want to use the home 6 months of the year, then rent it out the rest of the year. So there's a lot of freedom with making choices on how you want to use that property. So I'm going to go through some slides. If anybody has any questions as I'm going through, just, you can go to next, it's okay. Just type it in, I'd be happy to answer. So one of our biggest benefits for our clients about purchasing with us is our location. We are in the heart of a booming real estate market. We are very close to all the action. We are only 8 miles from Disney. You guys can see on the slide, we are very close to SeaWorld, Universal. Not to mention, we have restaurants all around our location, lots of golfing. One of the projects that I'm most excited about is Olympus. So Olympus is going to be very similar to ESPN World of Sports. It is a 245 sports acre complex that will host trainings. They'll have sports competitions. They'll have sports celebrities there doing talks, sports coaches, all kinds of good stuff. And we are about 14 minutes from that location. So I'm super excited for our current owners. I think that's really gonna spike our occupancy rates up. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, so the phase I'm talking to you guys about is Hidden Forest, which is our third phase. So we currently have sold out of our phase 1 and 2. When we're done developing, we'll have a total of 6 phases. Every community has its own clubhouse. They're all eco-friendly. They all include a resort-style pool, a jacuzzi, fitness center, and a game room. So we chose to give every community a clubhouse to avoid that overcrowding. Like, nobody wants to go to a crowded clubhouse in a pool that there's no room to swim. So that played a big part on why we decided to give every community its own clubhouse. Next slide. Okay, so here at Zenodro Homes, one of our top priorities is to deliver a high quality home at a super affordable price. So how do we want to do that? We decided to include all of our typical upgrades, people call them, as standard. We don't have any upgrade charges. And when I say upgrades, I mean European porcelain tile floor. The faucets are Moen. They have a lifetime warranty. Our windows are double. Countertops all have waterfall edge as well as a full height backsplash. We have about $42,000 worth of upgrades included in the sale price. So I feel like we stand out. We don't walk you into a fancy model and then say, okay, well, it's $3,000 extra for that, $2,000 for that. Like, what you see is what you get. Next slide. There it is. So again, when I mentioned we focus on delivering a high quality product. So it even starts with our construction. We use concrete block on both the first and the second floor. It's not a Florida standard, but it's a Zenodro standard. It's going to be a more durable home. It's going to be less resistant to fire. And then we also use spray foam insulation in between all of those blocks as well as the attic space. That is going to save, it does save our clients about 30 to 50% on their energy bill a year, which is amazing. Top quality. Next slide. Okay, so every building, these are townhomes. Every building has 4 townhomes. So the two, the corner units are the Orel floor plan. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,256 square feet. So they're super spacious. They all have a private pool that includes a heater. They all have a screened-in lanai. And the 2 interior units are an Asher floor plan. So that is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, but also includes a loft area. So it's actually 10 square feet bigger. It's 2,266 square feet. Again, they all include the private pool with the heater and the screened-in lanai. So 2 floor plans. The biggest difference is some people come in right away and the end unit obviously has more windows. It's very bright and spacious and they see the windows. They're like, okay, this is what we want. Other people see that open loft area and they know right away that that's what they want to do. They're going to make it a game room, however they want to design that home. Next slide. So you can see we went for a very modern contemporary look in these homes. The cabinets are European. The porcelain tile floor is from Spain. I have to say, when you walk in, the door is an 8-foot snow glass door. And when you walk in these homes, you're completely struck by the beauty of them. And we have a lot of clients that come, they spend 3-4 months a year, they enjoy the homes and make these amazing memories with their family. And then they're able to generate an income, pay for that home the rest of the year. So super proud about that. Okay, so with given circumstances, sometimes it's nice to not be in such crowded areas. So we are, even though we're very close to everything, we are set back. We have 145 acres. We're mixed in with a lot of conservation area that we will never develop on. We will have a total of 6 communities when we're done. Zenodra Homes, we have been in business about 20 years in the South Florida, Central Florida area. We are a family-run company. Our owners are on site every day. They are very hands-on with the day-to-day, which I love, and I know that our clients and our homeowners love. Clients aren't just clients to us. They become more than, they're like the part of the Zenodra family. Like when they're in town, they bring us cookies, they stop in and say hello, tell us how well the property is doing, and so on and so forth. So the reputation that we have, I'm very proud to work for Zenodra Homes. Next slide. Oh, I think we skipped one. Did we skip one? Yes. So that's an overview of the 145 acres. Like I mentioned to you guys, the dark green area is the conservation area. You can see Serenity is sold out. That's our phase 1. We have Retreat sold out. And then Hidden Forest, which is the lower community, we actually have sold 65% of those units already. And then from there, we'll go right to Tranquility. So again, there's something serene about being there. I don't feel like I'm going to work every day. It's super peaceful. It's very tranquil, and it's a nice place to be. So we have a lot of people that once they find the property, renters I'm talking about now, once they come and they rent from these owners, they continue to come back every year because they love the environment so much. So that's my contact info. If anybody has any questions, I'd love to answer them. And if you don't want to ask now, you can get in touch with me. You can get in touch with Joanna, and I'd love to give you guys some more details. I think you're muted, Joanne. There you go.
Yeah, so I see that someone in the Q&A asked what is included with the HOA fees and how much is HOA?
Okay, that's a great question. So our HOA it's $300 per month. I don't know if you guys can see this. So it includes a list of things. Just to read some of them, it includes the owner's inside water and sewer bill, obviously the landscaping and maintenance of all the common areas. We do a termite bond, exterior pest control. They also include, so we have shingles on the roofs. They're 30-year shingles, but the HOA replaces that roof. At the end of the roof life, when that is done, the roof is replaced at no expense to the owner. And then trash valet service. So because we are a majority of a short-term rental community, a lot of renters, and sometimes they're too busy to remember that it's the trash day. So we have a company that comes a couple times a week to make sure that trash gets picked up, and it keeps the community looking nice, and it keeps those renters coming back, and then keeps owners happy. It includes a list of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. 300 is actually really good, especially for vacation home, like short-term rental homes, even just like condos. Sometimes it's.
Yeah, absolutely. And it includes a list of things. We don't have a CDD, so we kind of stand out that way. That will save clients thousands of dollars. We finance our own roads. We finance everything on our own. So that's not something, it's not a burden that we choose to put on our owners.
Okay, for people who don't know what a CDD is.
Oh, thank you.
What, can you explain it? Because I'm just saying, some people, yeah. Sorry.
So a CDD, typically, it's a community development district, and I think you'll find a lot of, at least investment property communities, they have CDDs. It's attached to your taxes, It's a few $1,000s a year, and it's something that you're probably going to pay for about 30 years. The developer puts the cost of like putting in roads and a gated entrance, all of that goes to the owners of the property. That's not something that we do. So again, that's very important to ask about, to know about a CDD.
Yeah, a lot of new construction, just FYI, will have a CDD. So like I live in the Lake Nona area, and a lot of the new construction in the Lake Nona area will have a CDD. That's just, you know, it's just part of your taxes that you're just going to have to pay for a while.
A while.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
All right, well, I guess, David, you are next.
Yes, it is me. Also, thanks everybody for having me, and I'd like to thank everybody that's on here for giving us your time. I think that we put together something here that's giving you a wealth of information. I think as an investor, I hope that you'll get a ton out of it, and we're not done yet, because I'm gonna try to pull this thing together for everybody, because whether you are going to buy a new home or whether you're going to buy an existing home, whether you're going to finance it, whether you're going to pay cash for it, once you purchase it, then you are going to need a good property manager to find you a tenant that's going to pay the rent on time and take good care of that property. So that's what I'm here for. So my name is Dave Drotti. I work for Keller Williams. I am a property manager. I have been working in the Orlando area for about 30 years. I have a 5-person team that helps me manage about 300 properties throughout the Orange and Seminole County or Metro Orlando area. And I have my GRI. I have my REMP designation. I also just got my prestigious RMP designation from the National Association of Property Managers. I am also currently the communications chair of the Orlando chapter of the National Association of Property Managers. So I feel like you're going to get some really good advice today from a seasoned veteran right here in the Orlando market. So let's switch to the next slide. This slide basically just goes over property management, but I feel like much of today's seminar, little thing we're putting on here for you, that it's best to have a team approach when you're an investor buying the real estate. You need to have it like a little mastermind of sorts. So you have a realtor that will help you find and help you buy the property. You're going to have a finance person that's going to help you finance or fund the property in some type of a smart way. And finally, you're going to need a property manager. The property manager is going to help get that property rented, going to watch and maintain that property for you. So we'll switch over to my next slide too. So this slide I basically call the KW difference. It's really way too much information for me to go through everything on the slide, but we can certainly get that emailed over to you or whatever if you would like. But I wanted to go through just a few highlights for you today and answer a question: what can a property manager do to improve your investment property purchase? So first of all, I suggest that you get your property manager involved way before you're looking for a tenant. So I suggest you get them involved at the point where you're making an offer or you just went under contract on the property. This is the time you can pull your property manager in. You get them to do a rental analysis for you to verify that the rents that you've researched or your realtor's researched and that type of thing are going to coincide with the rents that property manager feels he's going to be able to obtain with you in the market. And he should be also able to bring them in on your home inspection, where you would have the property inspected. They check the walls, the ceilings, the floors, the electrical systems, and the roof. Your property manager can walk through for you, something we do free of charge, and make sure that they put their eyes on the neighborhood, the house, the floor plan, and then be able to advise you on what you're going to need to do to bring that property into a rentable condition. Many times it's more things than an investor thinks that it might need to bring it in a rentable property condition. Other investors I've spoken to, I've had to, tell them they need to save about $10,000 because they're doing way too much than what I need to do to get the property rented. So that can be a valuable part of your inspection team, is to have a property manager come through and take a look at it at the time when you're doing all your inspections. Once you closed, property manager is going to be really valuable to you in the sense that they're going to have reputable vendors that work for great prices that they can have ready to go for you at the time that you close. They can take care of any repairs or improvements that need to be done very quickly, because if you have to have those things done, you're going to want to get them done as quickly as possible to reduce your vacancy costs while the property is just sitting there not earning income. When the property is ready to market, like we have a rental specific website. We advertise on realtor.com. That's the most powerful real estate website in the world, plus about 150 other websites that we advertise on. So because we have stronger marketing and more effective marketing, we're typically able to get you a much better quality tenant, and we're able to do it faster than you can do it. So I've already figured it out, and basically if I can rent your property for you and get it done 25 days faster than you can do it, essentially my services to rent that property were free, just for me eliminating that vacancy cost for you. I also have full-time staff. We're able to show the property. We're able to screen the property. And when screening the property, a property manager is going to be able to do a much better screening job than you would be able to do yourself. In fact, through this COVID-19 crisis, it's been pretty scary for property managers. Like I said, I manage 300 properties. We currently have 2 properties that are 300 that are in a little bit of a troubled situation, which is, you know, I feel like outstanding. We feel like we're in the eye of a hurricane, and we really attributed that we screened these tenants hard, really trying to get a good tenant up front, and it's really paid off now that we have some better decision makers in the property, and it's paying off for everybody. We're going to fully document that property. You're going to be able to get an attorney-approved lease, which is much better than any type of lease you can buy down at Office Depot, or even a FAR bar approved lease. All those leases are typically structured to protect the tenant. My lease is structured to protect the landlord. We collect rents, of course, handle maintenance issues for you, handle any delinquency issues for you. And then, at least with my company anyway, twice a year, we're going to do a walkthrough on that property. We're going to look for any deferred maintenance. We're going to look for tenant issues, take photos and pictures, and we're going to actually be able to email it to you. So twice a year with us, it's going to be like a little virtual walkthrough of your property. Is you're going to get to say, okay, there's the living room, there's the dining room, oh, everything looks good, they're taking good care of the property. Or if there's issues, we're taking photos and pictures, so you're able to see exactly what's going on, and we're making recommendations on how to handle it. All right. So anyway, these are many things that I think if you're honest with yourself as an investor, that really just don't happen a lot of times. And any one of these things could be more than enough offset that's well worth getting a property manager involved and working with you in your properties. And we are used to working with all types of investors. So we have investors that are low involvement investors, and we have investors that are really high, hands-on investors. And we have investors that are local, so they're close and they can drive by their properties, and they do sometimes. And we have investors that live all around the world. Some of my investors haven't seen their property in many years. So we have the technology, the tools, the systems and stuff to make it easy for you and easy for your tenant, frankly, to make your experience a lot better as a landlord. So we also have what's called a finder's fee program for those people that maybe would like to have that tenant screened and the upfront documentations and that type of thing, but don't necessarily want a property manager to manage it. I live locally, I can manage it myself, I just need you to find me a good tenant. And we have that as a finder's fee program that we try to find a good, well-qualified tenant for you, make sure everybody's happy in the first 30 days, and then you take over and self-manage that property moving forward. And we have quite a few relationships that we work in that manner. So next slide. All right. Again, I'm Dave Drawdy, Keller Williams, property manager, working right here in the Orlando metropolitan area, anywhere in Orange or Seminole County. All my contact information is right there on the screen. I'd be happy to send you any of my information, discuss questions in private, or I'm happy to take any questions now through either the chat feature, or you can unmute yourself, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have. Any questions?
David, can I just say, I feel like it's important that you guys are so important. I don't know that you get that recognition sometimes. Like, property management companies can make it or break it for you. So having somebody that goes above and beyond, like I'm reading your list of things that you do, so important, so important.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Thanks for that.
we work very hard, and we have a lot of good relationships with realtors all around the Orlando area, because they know when they send them over, it makes that investor's experience good, and those investors buy more properties because they feel like they have somebody they know that's watching the property, taking care of the property, and can deal with any situations that come up with them. They can sleep at night. Many of the investors just like me to send them the statement and put the money in the bank.
So, quick question for you. How does it work when it comes to liability? Does that get shared with the property management company for somebody who's, let's say, lives overseas and has no idea what's going on at their property, but then somebody slips and falls and sues them all of a sudden? How does that work?
Right. Well, we're in America. It's a very litigious country, so it's not necessarily a shared responsibility. We have homeowners insurance that we basically really require the owners to have, whether you pay cash or whether you have a mortgage, that will protect you in the event somebody is hurt or injured on the property and they go to sue the owner. That insurance, homeowners insurance, would protect the owner in the event that they are sued. The tenants have every right to sue me or Keller Williams or anybody else they want as well, including that lawsuit. Of course, we have our own errors and omissions insurance and stuff like that that covers us in those events. So it's not necessarily a shared liability. You would have an insurance on your property that would cover you in the event that a tenant or anybody the tenant invited over, or even if a burglar broke in and they'll sue you. But your insurance is what would protect you in that case.
Okay.
I have a quick story about that. My aunt, she has a rental property, and it wasn't her tenant. It was a friend of her tenant's that came with a dog and bit the tenant, and the tenant tried to sue her. And because of the insurance that she had on the property, the insurance claim took so long, because obviously the insurance company is going to try to fight, the attorney's going to try to fight as much as they can for their client and not pay that money. The process was so long that in the end, the person just gave up. So it's definitely one of those things that I'm sorry?
This is the standard homeowners insurance?
So there's a liability portion. There's a liability portion in the homeowners insurance. Right, David?
That is correct. That's correct. Your homeowner insurance will cover you, like in the event of a hurricane or tornado, or the property gets damaged. Your homeowner's insurance would cover in that. But there's a liability portion of that covers you if somebody's walking across your property and trips and falls and decides they're going to sue you. That, in all reality, they don't want. The attorneys are almost never suing you. They're almost always just trying to sue the insurance companies. They're looking for the deep pocket, which is also almost always the insurance company. And if you happen to be a very deep pocket, then you can get like an umbrella policy or something like that if you were concerned about it. But your homeowners insurance is typically adequate for most investors. With net worths probably under $5-6 million. You're perfectly fine with your standard policy.
Thank you.
Any other questions, or? Come on. I know you got it.
I know, right? Josh, you don't have a question?
Don't be shy. Ask the question.
Ask it
I was
now.
just gonna add into the fact that for the liability purposes, when you purchase a home or condo or anything of that nature for rental purposes, that each individual rental unit should probably be placed into a separate LLC to keep for liability purposes.
So I agree with that 110%. A lot of our owners put the homes in an LLC. And we have some owners that own 10, 11 units that are all in an LLC for insurance purposes.
But it honestly sounds like today's webinar was very well put together in the fact that you have an individual that can source new homes, an individual that has existing homes that can go all over Orlando, and an individual that can rent them out for you. So realistically, if I wanted to say, hypothetically, I had X number of dollars, Joanna, go find me a home, purchase it, have David take care of it, I could be having a portfolio done by the end of the week.
At least we can find some creative financing for you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we have a question. Do property managers handle Airbnb renters?
Okay, Airbnb is a newer thing, and there are a few property managers who are starting to get into doing the Airbnb. I personally am not into it at this time, but you could probably call around, or if you went on to National Association of Property Managers, it's NARPM.com, put in the zip code. You could probably call around and find a property manager who would be willing to help you out with Airbnb situations.
And I know in our community, we have, like I said, we don't have a mandatory property management or an in-house, but I am familiar with the ones. I need to know what's going on. And I know that some of them, they blast it out all over Airbnb, VRBO, like that rental goes all over multiple websites to generate that income for those clients of that property management company. So I feel like it depends on like David said, the property management company.
Okay, so Kendra, you're saying that essentially if someone were to come to your property and want to do a short-term rental, you would have some property managers that you could recommend to them.
Yeah, like if, David, do you do short-term rental or you're more the long-term rental?
I do all long-term rentals. So,
Okay.
But yeah, if you had, obviously being there, it sounds like you have some contacts if they want to do Airbnb stuff that people are already working, and that'd be great to get a recommendation from you versus picking somebody.
Yeah, listen, I don't know many that, most of the ones I know, because it's so short-term rental Airbnb, I don't know many long-term rental ones. And clients are like, oh, well, we've done short-term rental. We wanted to take a year off and do long-term rental. We're going to be away, whatever it may be. So it's nice to know someone. But yes, so I have multiple property management companies in there. One specifically for short-term rental offers a 2-year contract to owners at 75% occupancy. So it gives you the numbers, kind of like the numbers that Joanna went through before. And then that would be worst case scenario. So that contract protects them and it can only get better from there, if that makes sense. Do you understand what I'm saying? Anybody?
No,
So,
not really.
I do.
okay, so it's a contract. You don't have to do it. Some owners do it, some do not. This is just with one specific company that guarantees 78% occupancy at a conservative rate. Because they've been in the community, they know the rental rates are up and higher in occupancy. So it's just like a safety net for some first-time investors that we get that they go with.
Okay, I understand. So basically, if I purchase a unit in your area and work with that particular individual, they'll be able to guarantee a 75% occupancy rate over a 2-year contract timeframe at a reasonable rate. So that will give me a structured idea of that I can put into a bare bones financial return that I'm looking for.
Exactly. You're going to know, okay, this is the worst it can do. It can only get better from here. And these are the numbers. Exactly. Any other good questions?
All right, I think that's it. I really appreciate you guys coming out and learning today. And we will probably be circling back with you, just contact you, just ask you how the seminar went, if you got some good information from it, and how we can help and serve you as well.
Well, thank you for having me, Joanna. It was
Yes.
fun.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys, and have a good night.
Too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.